My brother is demanding I give him my inheritance because he has kids and I don't, and my extended family is choosing sides. I'm so angry I can barely type this coherently, but I need outside perspective because my family is making me feel like I'm the villain here. My grandmother, Nana, passed away 3 months ago at 89. She was the matriarch of our family and, honestly, my favorite person in the world. I, 28F, was extremely close to her. I visited her twice a week, took her to doctor appointments, helped with groceries, and spent every holiday with her. When she got sick 2 years ago, I was the one who coordinated her care and made sure she had everything she needed. My brother David, 31M, lives across the country with his wife Jessica, 29F, and their 3 kids, ages 8, 6, and 4. He visited maybe twice a year and called Nana on her birthday and major holidays. He's not a bad person, but he was never as involved in her life as I was. Last week, the will was read. Nana left David $50,000, which is incredibly generous. She left me her house. The house is worth about $400,000. It's a beautiful 1920s craftsman in a desirable neighborhood that Nana bought with my late grandfather in 1962. She raised my dad and my aunt in that house, and it holds so many family memories. I was shocked but honored that she left it to me. In the letter she left with the will, she wrote that she knew I would love and care for the house the way she did, and that she hoped I would fill it with my own family someday. When David heard about the inheritance distribution, he completely lost it. He called me screaming that it wasn't fair, that he has 3 kids who deserve a stable inheritance more than I do, that as the older child, he should have gotten the house, that I manipulated Nana into leaving it to me by being fake nice to her. But here's the thing that really gets me. David and Jessica make good money. He's a software engineer. She's a nurse practitioner. They live in a McMansion they built 3 years ago, drive new cars, take expensive vacations. They're doing fine financially. I'm a teacher. I make $45,000 a year and live in a tiny apartment. I've been saving for years to buy a house, but could never afford anything decent in my area. This inheritance isn't just money to me. It's the chance to finally have a real home. David has been calling me nonstop demanding that I do the right thing and give him the house. He says his kids need the inheritance more than I do because children are expensive. He says it's selfish for me to keep such a valuable asset when I'm just one person and he has a family to think about. Jessica has been texting me too, saying they could sell the house and use the money for the kids' college funds. She said I could find a nice apartment with my teacher's salary, and wouldn't I feel better knowing I helped secure my nieces' and nephews' futures? The worst part is that other family members are starting to agree with them. My Aunt Karen, Dad's sister, David's mom, were half-siblings, called me yesterday saying that David has a point. That Nana probably didn't understand how much kids cost these days. That I should consider sharing the inheritance because it's what Nana would have wanted. My Uncle Mike said I should at least sell the house and split the money 50-50 with David because it would be fairer. Even some of my cousins are messaging me saying I'm being selfish and that my brother's kid should come first. The only person supporting me is my dad, who told David to back off and respect Nana's wishes. But Dad is dealing with his own grief and doesn't want to get involved in family drama. I'm starting to feel like maybe I am being selfish. I keep thinking about my nieces and nephew and wondering if I'm taking money away from their futures. But I also loved Nana deeply and feel like I should honor her wishes. She specifically chose to leave me the house. Doesn't that mean something? David is now threatening to contest the will if I don't voluntarily give him the house. He says he'll claim Nana had dementia and wasn't competent to make decisions, which is completely false. She was sharp as a tack until the day she died. I don't want to fight with my family, but I also don't want to give up the only chance I'll ever have to own a home. I keep imagining myself living in Nana's house, keeping her garden, hosting family dinners in her dining room. It feels like she's still giving me one last gift. But I also keep hearing David's voice saying I'm selfish and his kids deserve better. Reddit, am I wrong to keep the house? Should I give it to David because he has children? Is it selfish to keep an inheritance that could help kids just because I want a house of my own? I feel so lost and guilty, and I don't know what's right anymore. Edit, A lot of people are asking about the total value of the estate. Besides the house, $400,000, and David's $50,000, there were some smaller bequests to other family members and charities, totaling about $100,000. So David got $50,000 out of roughly $550,000 total. Edit 2. For those asking why Nana didn't leave the house to both of us, her letter specifically mentioned that she wanted it to go to someone who would live in it and love it, not sell it. She knew David would sell immediately, since he lives across the country. Edit 3. I am not married and do not have kids, but I might want them someday. David keeps using this against me, saying childless people don't need as much money. Update 1, 3 weeks ago. The situation has gotten so much worse, and I'm honestly questioning everything I thought I knew about my family. First, thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. The overwhelming support for keeping the house gave me the strength to stand firm, even as my family's pressure intensified. After my original post, David escalated his campaign to get the house. He created a group text with me, our parents, Aunt Karen, Uncle Mike, and several cousins. In this text, he laid out his case for why he deserved the house. He's the older sibling. He has 3 children who need financial security. I'm younger and have plenty of time to build wealth. The house is too big for one person. He and Jessica could use the equity to buy a bigger house in their area and invest the rest for the kids' college funds. He ended the message by saying that keeping the house would be the most selfish thing anyone in our family has ever done. My dad immediately responded telling David to stop harassing me and respect Nana's wishes. But everyone else was silent, which felt like agreement with David. Then David did something that made my blood boil. He started posting on Facebook about family members who choose money over children's futures and the importance of thinking about the next generation, not just yourself. He never mentioned me by name, but all our mutual relatives knew exactly what he was talking about. I started getting messages from extended family members I barely talk to, asking me to consider doing the right thing for the kids. My cousin Sarah, who I used to be close with, told me she was disappointed in my greed. My great-aunt Linda said she never thought I was the type of person to put money before family. The social pressure was intense, but I held firm. The house was left to me for a reason, and I wasn't going to let David bully me into giving it up. But then Jessica escalated things in a way I never saw coming. She called me last Tuesday, crying. She said they were in serious financial trouble that David hadn't told anyone about. According to Jessica, they're drowning in debt from their house, cars, and credit cards. She said they've been living beyond their means for years and are now facing potential bankruptcy. Jessica claimed they desperately needed the house inheritance to avoid losing everything. She said the kids might have to change schools, they might lose their house, and it would all be my fault if I didn't help. I felt terrible hearing this, but something seemed off. If they were really in such dire straits, why hadn't David mentioned any of this before? Why was he demanding the house based on the kids deserving it rather than actually needing it? So, I did something I probably shouldn't have done. I looked at Jessica's social media. Her Facebook and Instagram are full of posts from the past few months showing expensive vacations, new purchases, restaurant meals, kids' activities, etc. Just 2 weeks ago, she posted about buying a new designer handbag and going to a spa day with friends. This does not look like the social media of someone facing bankruptcy. I screenshotted some of the posts and sent them to my dad, asking if he thought their financial crisis was real. Dad was furious when he saw the evidence. He said it looked like they were trying to manipulate me with a sob story. That weekend, Dad called David directly and asked about their financial situation. According to Dad, David got defensive and eventually admitted they weren't actually facing bankruptcy. He said they had some credit card debt, but were managing it. Dad asked why Jessica had told me they were in crisis. David's response was that they might face financial problems in the future if they didn't get help now, so it wasn't really a lie. I was so angry I could barely see straight. They had completely fabricated a crisis to try to guilt me into giving up my inheritance. I called Jessica and confronted her about the lie. She broke down and admitted that David had asked her to exaggerate their financial problems to convince me. She said she felt terrible about it, but that David had convinced her it was justified because I was being unreasonable. That's when I decided I was done trying to keep the peace. I sent a message to the family group text with screenshots of Jessica's social media posts and a summary of her confession about lying. I wrote, "Since David and Jessica have been lying to all of you about their financial situation to try to manipulate me into giving up my inheritance, I thought you should see the truth. I will not be giving David the house. Nana left it to me, and that decision will be respected. Anyone who continues to pressure me about this will be blocked." The response was explosive. David absolutely lost his mind. He called me screaming obscenities, saying I was trying to destroy his marriage and his relationship with his kids. He said I had no right to spy on Jessica's social media and that their spending habits were none of my business. Aunt Karen accused me of being vindictive and said that everyone knows social media doesn't show the whole picture. She said I was looking for excuses to be selfish and that lying about money problems was understandable when I was being so unreasonable. Uncle Mike said I was tearing the family apart and that I should have just handled this privately instead of embarrassing David and Jessica in front of everyone. But some family members finally started supporting me. My cousin Tom said he was appalled by David and Jessica's behavior. My dad's cousin Anne said she was proud of me for standing up for myself. Even my quiet cousin Lisa admitted she thought David was being pushy and entitled. The family is now completely split. About half think I'm right to keep the house, and half think I'm being selfish and should give it to David. David sent me one final text saying that if I didn't reconsider, he would never speak to me again and I would never see his kids again. He said I was choosing money over family and that I would regret it when I was old and alone. I replied, "I'm not choosing money over family. I'm choosing honesty over manipulation and respect over bullying. Nana's house was her final gift to me, and I won't let you take that away." He hasn't responded, but Jessica unfriended me on all social media. I've now moved into Nana's house, and I absolutely love it. Every room holds memories of her, and I feel her presence everywhere. I'm slowly making it my own while preserving the things that made it special to her. But I'd be lying if I said this wasn't hard. I miss my nieces and nephew terribly. I miss the idea of having a close relationship with my brother. I hate that Nana's death has caused such division in our family. Sometimes I wonder if I should have just given him the house to keep the peace. But then I remember how manipulative and dishonest David and Jessica have been, and I know I made the right choice. Nana didn't leave me this house by accident. She left it to me because she trusted me to love it and care for it the way she did. I'm not going to let anyone take that away from me. Edit. People keep asking if David actually makes good money or if they really are struggling. Based on what I can find online, his salary is probably around $120,000 and Jessica's is around $90,000. So they make over $200,000 combined, which should be plenty for their lifestyle and location. Edit 2. For those saying I should have handled the social media thing privately, David and Jessica were lying to my entire family to turn them against me. I had every right to defend myself with the truth. Edit 3. The house has been appraised at $415,000, slightly higher than I originally thought. I'm considering renting out a room to help with expenses while I get settled. Update 2 1 week ago. I cannot believe what has happened over the past 2 weeks. This situation has revealed things about my family that I never could have imagined. After my last update, things were quiet for about a week. David and Jessica weren't speaking to me, but the rest of the family seemed to be moving on. I thought maybe the worst was behind us. I was wrong. Last Monday, I came home from work to find a man in a suit standing on my front porch. He introduced himself as a private investigator hired by David's lawyer. Apparently, David wasn't bluffing about contesting the will. He's filed a formal challenge claiming that Nana lacked mental capacity when she wrote her will and that I exerted undue influence over her to manipulate her into leaving me the house. I was served with legal papers that evening. The allegations are absolutely ridiculous. The PI was asking my neighbors questions about whether I visited Nana excessively and whether they ever witnessed me pressuring her about money or property. He asked if I had ever brought lawyers or financial advisors to her house, if she seemed confused or disoriented when I was around, if I ever seemed to be coaching her on what to say. My neighbors were appalled. Mrs. Rodriguez, who lives next door, told the PI that I was the most devoted granddaughter she'd ever seen and that Nana lit up like a Christmas tree whenever I arrived. Mr. Chin from across the street said Nana often talked about how proud she was of me and how she hoped I would someday live in her house and raise my own family there. But the most shocking thing was what I learned about David's legal strategy. My dad's lawyer friend, Jim, offered to help me understand the documents David filed. As Jim was reading through the paperwork, he found something that made his jaw drop. David is claiming that I isolated Nana from her family and brainwashed her against David. But here's the kicker. To support this claim, David submitted affidavits from family members saying they noticed changes in Nana's behavior toward him in her final years. Aunt Karen signed an affidavit claiming that Nana seemed cooler toward David in recent years and that I monopolized her time and attention. Uncle Mike's affidavit says that Nana appeared confused about family finances and that I was always present during important conversations. But the most hurtful one was from my cousin Sarah. She signed a statement saying that she witnessed me coaching Nana to speak negatively about David and that Nana seemed to parrot my opinions rather than expressing her own thoughts. This is complete fiction. I never coached Nana to say anything negative about David. The only negative things she ever said about him were that she wished he visited more often and that she worried he was too focused on money, which, given current circumstances, seems pretty prescient. I called Sarah immediately to confront her about the affidavit. Sarah got defensive and said that David's lawyer had contacted her and asked her to remember times when I might have influenced Nana against David. She said the lawyer suggested specific scenarios and asked if anything like that had ever happened. I asked Sarah if she actually remembered me coaching Nana or if she had just agreed with the lawyer's suggestions. After a long pause, she admitted that she didn't actually remember specific incidents, but that the lawyer had said it was important to help David get his fair share of the inheritance. I was stunned. Sarah had signed a legal document swearing to facts she didn't actually remember, just because David's lawyer convinced her it was the right thing to do. I asked Sarah to recant her statement and tell the truth. She refused, saying it would destroy David and that she couldn't do that to him. That's when I realized how far this had gone. David wasn't just challenging the will. He was orchestrating a campaign to rewrite history and paint me as a manipulative elder abuser. I hired my own lawyer, which is expensive but necessary. My lawyer, Amanda, is confident that David's challenge will fail. She says challenges based on mental capacity are very difficult to prove, especially when the deceased was clearly competent. Nana had been to her doctor just a week before she died and was declared mentally sharp. More importantly, Amanda found something that completely destroys David's case. When Nana updated her 2 years ago, she did it through a reputable law firm with 3 lawyers present. The lawyers are required to assess mental capacity before drafting a will, and they have detailed notes about their evaluation of Nana. According to their notes, Nana was not only mentally competent but was very specific about her reasons for the distribution. She told the lawyers that she wanted to leave the house to me because I was the only family member who consistently showed care and attention without expecting anything in return. She specifically mentioned that David only called when he needed something and that she wanted her house to go to someone who would cherish it as a home, not an investment. The lawyers also noted that Nana brought up the will distribution herself. It wasn't suggested by anyone else. She came to them with a clear plan for what she wanted to do with her assets. This completely contradicts David's claim that I manipulated her into changing the will. But Amanda also discovered something that made me sick to my stomach. During the investigation for the will contest, Amanda looked into David and Jessica's finances to assess their claims of need. What she found was not financial hardship. What she found was that David and Jessica have been planning to challenge the will since the day after the funeral. Amanda found emails between David and Jessica discussing legal strategies and building a case against me. These emails are dated just days after Nana's death, long before they knew what she had left to whom. In one email, David wrote, "There's no way the old lady left my name more than me. I'm the older son, and I have kids. If she did, we'll contest it and claim she was manipulated." My name always was her favorite, but that doesn't give her the right to steal our kids' inheritance. In another email, Jessica wrote, "We should start documenting every interaction my name had with your grandmother. We need to build a case that she was controlling and manipulative. Talk to your family members about times they saw her being pushy or demanding. They were planning to challenge the will before they even knew what was in it. They had already decided to paint me as an elder abuser before they knew whether they had any legal grounds to do so." Most disgusting of all, Amanda found text messages between David and Jessica discussing how to use their kids to gain sympathy. Jessica texted, "Make sure to mention the kids in every conversation. People will side with us if they think we're fighting for the children's futures." David replied, "Exactly. My name doesn't have kids, so she can't understand. Everyone will think she's selfish for keeping money away from children. They calculated and planned this entire campaign to destroy my reputation and steal my inheritance." When Amanda showed me these communications, I cried for hours. Not just from anger, but from grief. I mourned the brother I thought I had, who apparently never existed. Amanda says these communications will likely result in David's case being thrown out with prejudice, and we might be able to sue him for my legal costs. But the damage to our family relationships is irreversible. When I confronted my dad with evidence of David's premeditated planning, Dad was devastated. He said he couldn't believe his son was capable of such manipulation and deceit. Dad called David and told him he had seen the emails and texts. According to Dad, David didn't even try to deny it. Instead, he accused Dad of choosing sides and said the whole family was conspiring against him. David told Dad that he felt cheated out of his rightful inheritance and that he was just fighting for his family. He said I had stolen what should have belonged to his kids and that he would do whatever it took to make it right. Dad told David that his behavior was disgusting and that he was ashamed to call him his son. They haven't spoken since. The worst part is that David is still trying to rally family support, even after being caught in his lies and manipulation. Aunt Karen called me yesterday, not to apologize for her false affidavit, but to yell at me for destroying David's reputation by sharing the evidence with my lawyer. She said that families are supposed to handle things privately and that I was being vindictive by using David's private communications against him. She actually said that David was just being protective of his children and that I should understand his motivation even if I didn't agree with his methods. I told Aunt Karen that David's private communications were evidence of fraud and elder abuse allegations, and that I had every right to defend myself. I said that if she was more concerned about David's reputation than his lies, she was part of the problem. She hung up on me. Uncle Mike called next, asking me to drop the legal stuff and just split the house value with David to keep the peace. When I refused, he said I was tearing the family apart and that Nana would be ashamed of how I was handling this. I told Uncle Mike that Nana would be ashamed of David for lying about her mental capacity and trying to invalidate her final wishes, but apparently that's not important to him. The family is now completely fractured. My dad supports me completely. My mom, who has stayed mostly neutral until now, finally told David she was disgusted by his behavior. Several cousins have reached out to apologize for initially siding with David. But David, Jessica, Aunt Karen, Uncle Mike, and a few others are doubling down. They're still claiming I'm being selfish and that David deserves part of the house because of his kids. Amanda says the legal case should be resolved within a few months, and she's confident we'll win. But she warned me that David might drag this out as long as possible, hoping I'll get tired of fighting and agree to settle. I told her that's not going to happen. I'm prepared to fight this all the way. This house isn't just an asset to me. It's Nana's final gift, her way of taking care of me even after she's gone. It represents her love, her trust, and her belief in me. David can contest the will, lie about me, turn half the family against me, and drag me through legal hell. But he will not take away the home that Nana wanted me to have. Edit. Some people are asking why David's emails and texts are admissible as evidence. Amanda explained that when you contest a will, you open up your motives and actions to legal scrutiny. David claimed he was acting in good faith to protect an incapacitated elder, but his communications prove he was actually planning to challenge the will regardless of its contents or Nana's mental state. Edit 2, for those asking about the costs. Yes, legal fees are expensive, but Amanda is confident we can recover them from David when we win. Also, keeping a $415,000 house is worth the legal fight. Edit 3. I've been getting messages from people saying I should reconcile with David for the sake of family unity. But there's no coming back from falsely accusing me of elder abuse and trying to steal my inheritance through lies and manipulation. Final update today. It's over. We won. David's will contest has been dismissed with prejudice, and the fallout has been even more dramatic than I expected. First, let me give you the legal resolution. Last week, we had a hearing where Amanda presented our evidence to the judge. The combination of the lawyer's notes about Nana's mental competency, the fabricated affidavits from family members, and David's premeditated planning to contest the will regardless of its contents completely destroyed his case. The judge was not pleased with David's legal strategy. She specifically called out the manufactured evidence and said it was clear that David was attempting to manipulate the legal system for financial gain rather than addressing legitimate concerns about testamentary capacity. David's lawyer tried to argue that the emails and texts were taken out of context, but the judge wasn't buying it. She said that planning to contest a will before knowing its contents, coaching family members to provide false statements, and deliberately misrepresenting the deceased's mental state constituted bad faith litigation. The will contest was dismissed, and the judge ordered David to pay my legal fees. The total came to $23,000, which is a significant chunk of the $50,000 he inherited from Nana. But the real drama started after the legal ruling. When Amanda called to tell me we had won, I was relieved but not surprised. I knew we had a strong case. What I didn't expect was the phone call I received an hour later. It was Jessica, and she was sobbing hysterically. Between the tears, she told me that she was leaving David. According to Jessica, the stress of the will contest and the legal fees have finally forced them to confront their real financial situation. They are deeply in debt, but not from normal expenses, from David's gambling addiction that Jessica claims she didn't know about. Apparently, David has been hiding a sports betting problem for years. The expensive vacations, cars, and lifestyle they've been flaunting on social media have all been funded by credit cards and loans, while David's gambling losses have been draining their actual income. Jessica said she only discovered the full extent of the problem when their lawyer demanded payment and David confessed he couldn't afford the legal fees. That's when she found out about the gambling debts, the secret credit cards, and the second mortgage he had taken out on their house without telling her. The $50,000 inheritance from Nana? David gambled most of it away within weeks of receiving it. Jessica was devastated. She said she felt like she didn't even know the man she married. She also said she felt terrible about lying to me about their financial situation and participating in David's scheme to get the house. She told me that David had convinced her I was being selfish and that his kids deserved better. But now she realizes that David was never thinking about the kids. He was thinking about feeding his gambling addiction with the house money. Jessica has filed for divorce and is moving back to her parents' house with the kids. She said she can't trust David anymore and doesn't want her children growing up with a father who lies and manipulates to support his addiction. I felt genuinely sorry for Jessica and the kids. Whatever issues I have with how Jessica handled this situation, I never wanted to see her marriage destroyed or her children hurt. But I was also angry. David had put his entire family at risk to try to steal my inheritance, all to fund a gambling problem that he had hidden from everyone. 2 days after Jessica called me, my phone rang again. This time it was David. He was drunk and belligerent. He blamed me for destroying his marriage, ruining his relationship with his kids, and taking away his children's future. He said that if I had just given him the house like he asked, none of this would have happened. I told David that his marriage fell apart because he's a liar and a gambling addict, not because I kept the house that was legally left to me. I said his kids were hurt by his lies and poor choices, not by my decision to honor Nana's wishes. David got more aggressive, saying that I had no right to keep an inheritance that could help children when I'm just a selfish, single woman. He said the kids would remember that Aunt My Name chose money over family and that I would regret it when I was old and alone. I told David that his children would actually remember that their father lied, cheated, and tried to steal from family to feed his gambling addiction. I said they would remember that he chose gambling over their stability and that he destroyed their family chasing money that was never his to begin with. I hung up on him and blocked his number. The next day, Jessica called again to apologize for David's behavior and to tell me something that completely floored me. When Jessica was going through David's papers for the divorce, she found something that changed everything I thought I knew about the situation. David has been planning to challenge Nana's will for over 2 years. Jessica found emails between David and a lawyer dating back to when Nana first got sick. In these emails, David was already discussing strategies to contest any will that didn't leave him the majority of Nana's assets. He had researched inheritance laws, consulted with multiple lawyers, and even hired a private investigator to look into my relationship with Nana, all while Nana was still alive. David was so confident that he deserved Nana's house that he started planning legal action before she was even dead. But the most disgusting part was what Jessica found in David's notes. David had written down strategies for undermining my name's credibility and building a narrative of elder abuse. He had specific plans for convincing family members to provide false testimony, manufacturing evidence of my supposed manipulation, and painting me as a greedy caregiver who took advantage of an elderly woman. David had literally planned to destroy my reputation and accuse me of crimes I didn't commit, all to steal an inheritance he was never entitled to. When Jessica told me this, I felt sick. This wasn't just about David wanting more money for his kids. This was a calculated, long-term scheme to defraud me and defame me. Jessica said she was giving me copies of all the documents she found because she thought I deserved to know the truth. She also said she would testify on my behalf if David ever tried to challenge the will again, or if I wanted to pursue legal action against him for his false accusations. I gave all of Jessica's evidence to Amanda, who said it was more than enough to file criminal charges against David for fraud and perjury if I wanted to. I thought about it for a long time. David had tried to destroy my life, my reputation, and my relationship with my family. He had accused me of elder abuse, manipulation, and theft. He had coached family members to lie under oath and had planned this betrayal for years. But in the end, I decided not to pursue criminal charges. David has already lost his wife, his children, his inheritance, and the respect of most of our family. His gambling addiction and lies have destroyed his life more effectively than any legal punishment could. I just want to move on and enjoy the home that Nana wanted me to have. As for the family relationships, the aftermath has been interesting. My dad has completely cut off contact with David. He said he can't forgive his son for lying about Nana's mental capacity and trying to destroy me with false accusations. Dad has been coming over to help me fix up the house, and we've grown closer through this whole ordeal. My mom, who stayed mostly neutral during the conflict, finally saw David's true character when Jessica shared the evidence of his premeditation. Mom called David to tell him she was ashamed of his behavior and that she wouldn't be seeing him until he got help for his gambling addiction and made amends for his lies. Aunt Karen and Uncle Mike, who signed false affidavits supporting David's claims, are now trying to distance themselves from the situation. Aunt Karen called to apologize, though she spent most of the call making excuses for why she believed David's lies. Uncle Mike sent a text saying he was sorry for the misunderstanding and hoped we could put this all behind us. I told them both that signing false legal documents wasn't a misunderstanding. It was perjury. I said I would consider forgiving them eventually, but only if they publicly acknowledged that they lied in their affidavits and that I never manipulated Nana in any way. So far, neither of them has been willing to do that. Several cousins who initially supported David have reached out to apologize. My cousin Tom, who supported me from the beginning, said he was horrified by the evidence of David's premeditation and was glad I had stood my ground. My cousin Sarah, who signed the false affidavit, sent a long email apologizing for lying and explaining that David's lawyer had pressured her into making statements she couldn't actually verify. She asked if she could visit me at Nana's house to apologize in person. I agreed to meet with Sarah. She came over last weekend and we had a long, difficult conversation about trust, family loyalty, and the difference between supporting someone and enabling their lies. Sarah admitted that she had known David's claims seemed exaggerated, but she had convinced herself that helping him get his fair share was more important than being completely truthful. She said she never thought about how her lies would affect me or honor Nana's memory. I told Sarah that her false affidavit could have cost me the house and destroyed my reputation. I said that choosing to lie for David instead of telling the truth was a betrayal of both me and Nana. Sarah cried and said she understood if I couldn't forgive her, but that she wanted to make things right. She offered to sign a statement recanting her original affidavit and acknowledging that she had no evidence of me manipulating Nana. I appreciated her willingness to correct her lies, and I think we can rebuild our relationship over time. But it will take a while for me to trust her again. As for David himself, I haven't heard from him since that drunken phone call. According to Jessica, he's living in a cheap apartment and is supposed to be in some kind of gambling addiction program as part of their divorce agreement. Jessica says he still blames me for ruining his life and refuses to take responsibility for his choices. I don't expect to have a relationship with David again. Even if he gets his gambling addiction under control and his life together, I can't forget that he spent years planning to destroy me to steal my inheritance. That level of betrayal and premeditation isn't something you come back from. The hardest part of this whole situation has been losing my relationship with my nieces and nephew. I love those kids, and I hate that David's actions have cost me the chance to be part of their lives. Jessica has said that once the divorce is final and things settle down, she would like the kids to have a relationship with me again. She said they ask about me and don't understand why they can't visit Auntie's new house. I hope that someday, when the kids are older, they'll understand that I didn't choose money over family. I chose honesty over manipulation and respect over betrayal. As for the house itself, I absolutely love living here. Every morning, I wake up in Nana's bedroom, which I've slowly been making my own, and feel grateful for her final gift to me. I've been keeping her garden, hosting family dinners in her dining room, and filling the house with the love and care she wanted it to have. I've also been able to help preserve Nana's memory in ways David never could have. I've kept all her photo albums, her recipe collection, and her gardening journals. I've maintained her relationships with longtime neighbors who stop by to share memories of her. I've kept her bird feeders full and her flower beds blooming. This house isn't just a financial asset to me. It's a living memorial to the woman who raised my father, welcomed me into the world, and loved me unconditionally for 28 years. David would have sold it within months to pay off his gambling debts. He would have scattered Nana's belongings, abandoned her gardens, and turned her home into just another real estate transaction. Nana knew what she was doing when she left the house to me. She knew I would love it and care for it and honor her memory within these walls. I've learned a lot about family during this whole ordeal. I learned that blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, and that sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones who will hurt you the deepest. But I also learned that real family, the people who support you, trust you, and stand by you when things get difficult, isn't always determined by genetics. My dad, who could have stayed neutral to avoid conflict, chose to support me and defend Nana's wishes. My cousin Tom never wavered in his support, even when half the family was against me. Amanda, my lawyer, fought for me like I was her own sister. These are the people who matter. These are the relationships worth preserving. David spent so much energy trying to convince everyone that I was selfish for keeping the house. But the truth is, David was the selfish one. He was willing to lie about Nana's mental capacity, accuse me of elder abuse, destroy family relationships, and risk his marriage and children's stability, all for money he was never entitled to. The irony is that if David had just accepted Nana's decision with grace, he would still have his $50,000 inheritance, his wife, his children, and his family relationships. His greed and dishonesty cost him everything that actually mattered. I, on the other hand, gained something precious beyond the house's monetary value. I gained the knowledge that I honored the woman who meant the world to me. I gained a beautiful home filled with love and memories. I gained clarity about which family relationships are worth preserving and which ones were built on false foundations. Most importantly, I gained the peace of mind that comes from doing the right thing, even when it's difficult. To anyone reading this who might be facing a similar situation, inheritance disputes can reveal people's true character in ways you never expected. Don't let family members bully you into giving up what was rightfully left to you. Don't let guilt or manipulation override your loved one's final wishes. The people who truly love you will respect your inheritance, even if they're disappointed. The people who try to lie, manipulate, and steal from you were never really family in the ways that matter. 6 months ago, I thought I had a close relationship with my brother and a united extended family. Today, I know that some of those relationships were based on lies and conditional love. But I also know that I have a beautiful home, a clear conscience, and the knowledge that I honored my grandmother's memory exactly as she wanted. I'd rather have the truth than a lie, even when the truth is more painful. And I'd rather live alone in Nana's house, surrounded by her love and memories, than compromise my integrity to maintain relationships with people who are willing to betray me. David wanted me to choose between money and family. But the real choice was between honesty and manipulation, between respecting Nana's wishes and enabling David's lies, between standing up for myself and being bullied into submission. I chose honesty, respect, and self-worth. And I'm living happily ever after in the house that Nana wanted me to have.